Welcome, everyone, to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. Find them at artistfirst.com. Please send your questions and comments to dj@artistfirst.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's the always fascinating Michael and Margaret Lyons.
I don't know if we can live up to that.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. I am Michael Lyons.
Mm-hmm. And I'm Margaret.
And I am always boring.
No. What are you?
I'm sometimes boring.
Okay. All right. You choose.
I'm an occasional fascinator.
Occasional fascinator.
Occasional fascinator.
You're a zipper?
A fascinator. Yes, I'm an occasional fascinator. Now, this is just going off the rails, like from the very beginning here, so we got to stop. So tonight, you guys are in for the sort of perennial treat. Tonight is poetry night.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done a poetry night in some months, not since last November.
And it was time.
And tonight we are going to, our muse will be Uncle Walty. Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman, who is always good. Always, Walt is worth the trip. This, I believe, is from Leaves of Grass, which is one of his seminal collections. And Uncle Walty wrote all of these pretty much just staring off into Walden Pond or something.
He goes internal.
He does go internal.
He goes internal and then tries to form his experience with words, which is very difficult.
Yeah, I have tremendous admiration for all good poets, because poetry in and of itself seems easy, but good poetry is incredibly difficult. So Uncle Walty will be our muse tonight, and this poem I wasn't familiar with, but I think it's a good one. And I think you mentioned, Margaret, that this, even though it was written at the turn of the latter part of the 19th century, the turn of the 20th century, it really applies pretty well to the current times, especially with the burgeoning advent of AI and its effect on the idea of what is consciousness. What are we if we're not conscious, and what is AI if it isn't conscious?
Right. It's bringing your own personal experience into focus and letting you examine what is your process? What makes you any different from an AI? Does the AI have that internal kind of reflection? Or is it just programming where it understands it has to go through these pathways?
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It's certainly more than that, but it's difficult to know what exactly it is. It's really the question of our times now, and it's kind of confronting us because AI is no longer something you can just relegate to the back pages of science fiction. It is science and real fact. And so, as I mentioned, Walt Whitman is a good muse for this type of reflection on humanity and on consciousness. So the title of this work is On the Beach at Night Alone. And I'm going to let you give it a read through all the way through, perhaps, and then we'll dip back into Uncle Walty.
All righty. On the beach at night alone. On the beach at night alone, as the old mother sways her to and fro, singing her husky song. As I watch the bright stars shining, I think a thought of the clef of the universes and of the future. A vast similitude interlocks all spheres, grown, ungrown, small, large, suns, moons, planets, all distances of place, however wide, all distances of time, all inanimate forms, all souls, all living bodies, though they be ever so different or in different worlds. All gaseous, watery, vegetable, mineral processes, the fishes, the brutes. All nations, colors, barbarisms, civilizations, languages, all identities that have existed or may exist on this globe, or any globe. All lives and deaths, all of the past, present, future. This vast similitude spans them and always has spanned, and shall forever span them and compactly hold and enclose them. Walt Whitman.
Beautiful, really.
He's bringing you right to the edge of the water and in a place where you can see the stars, vastness. And the vastness is what speaks. It's the vastness of the sky in that moment, and the vastness of the water, and the sound of the to and fro, ancient, from which we all came from.
Mm.
That sound is a rhythm, the earth's own heartbeat, and she sings under that sky.
Yeah, that's a beautiful image of singing in her husky song. Is the sound of the song, literally the song of the sea.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to note, as you already did, the vastness, which, as we've often talked about, Tolle speaks of the sea and the vastness as almost immediately and completely silencing the ego, if only for a moment. So the vastness of the sea, or of the sky, or of the susurration of the waves, or of the stars, they immediately act to quash that inner voice, the voice of the ego, of the tomorrow or the yesterday, of the what to do next and what we're looking at and identifying everything. Oh, this is this and this is this, and I don't like this and I don't like that.
It's allowing you to be right there. And you're not taking your phone out and taking a picture.
Oh my God, yeah.
You're there and you've let go of all of it and allowed your senses to engage at that point. So you feel the breeze on your skin. You smell the salt of the ocean. You hear that rhythm. And you look up and you realize that you don't need a lot of light to see what's around you. You need some light. But then you're drawn, your eyes are always drawn to look at the light in the darkness. but it's allowing you to acknowledge the space that those lights are twinkling in. You become aware of the spaces between the lights.
Mm.
It's truly amazing, because then you see the light being reflected by the surface of the ocean and the movement all around you. It hints at so many ways that your environment, nature, speaks. It's speaking on so many levels.
It brings to the fore your presence in its own vast presence. It brings to the fore your consciousness, your awareness. I like the image you just mentioned, which is that your eyes are drawn on a dark and starry night. Your eyes are drawn, of course, to the stars, and then to the spaces in between. And I think the spaces are quite important, because the stars are like the thoughts of your ego in one regard. They try to twinkle and shine and draw your eye and get you to engage. But the spaces in between are where consciousness lives. And if you see the vastness of the night sky, you see that despite the fact that there are thousands of stars within your immediate view, and really hundreds of millions, billions, uncountable numbers that you could find were you to use a telescope, even with all that, the space, the consciousness, the universe, if you will, the consciousness encompasses them all. That the vastness of the sky allows for hundreds of billions upon billions of stars, and yet is not exhausted, is not full. Just as the ocean, in a much smaller scale, but in the vastness of the ocean, you could lose all people that exist at the very moment. Your consciousness aligns itself with the vastness of the ocean, because they're analogous of each other. Your consciousness encompasses the ocean in awareness. It encompasses the universe in awareness. And so you suppress that tiny ego voice, and you realize that as Whitman also talks about, that the thought of the clef of the universe, the vastness of the sky, that thought reveals more about yourself and your awareness and your kinship with the universe than it does to separate you. The thoughts, the little thoughts, separate you all the time. I'm this, I'm that, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a, whatever.
Well, I find that it's a letting go of your focus on these thoughts. It's very similar to watching the stars in the night sky. You focus in certain areas, looking at how they twinkle in the night. And then you let go of that one focus and shift over to another area of the sky, or a movement in terms of a color that you see. The star, gee, that star looks reddish or pink or blue. And then suddenly you're delighted if you see a shooting star.
Yeah.
And that has color too. So it's releasing yourself to engage fully. Once you do that, when you're focusing up upon the stars, everything else comes with you. It's not that you're pushing pieces of yourself away. I think when you are engaged in seeing how big it all is, every part of you is there participating. You're all focused together, all of you. Nothing is like off trying to nag you about something. You're just there participating in watching, observing, and usually relaxing into it. There's a lot of joy in that moment.
And not a lot of commenting, which is what that ego does. It starts to, this red star, this is, I'm going to start naming the stars.
Don't classify.
Don't classify.
It's a stillness that you embrace. You can note the color.
Sure.
But you don't need to put it in a box somewhere, or you don't need to take a picture of it or break that. It's understanding how your focus actually works. If you can allow yourself that, because many times classifying or categorizing, it's a form of self-defense. You feel you are in control in that moment. And it's letting go of that fear. You have to be brutally honest with yourself when you start walking down this particular path. Brutally honest. It's like, but there's no judgment call, because judgment call is also engaging outside of experience. I don't know if people have noticed that. The minute you start making a judgment call on something, you are no longer in the moment. You're not in that space. Kind of like, what is it? In physics, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Yep.
Where you cannot measure and locate an electron in a specific spot. Right. It's either one or the other.
Right. The energy and the position are mutually exclusive, if you will. To know one exactly means you know nothing about the other.
Correct.
And vice versa. And
that's what I mean by when you're engaging, you're in your movement. When you're taking stock on a measurement, that's a completely different state.
So I would say when you're in awareness, you're not measuring, and you're not trying to understand the energy or trying to name something. So, if we go back to Whitman for a second here, the title is evocative of the whole experience. The experiential thing immediately brings to mind, because I think everyone can relate to being on a beach alone at night, alone. Because immediately that image, even just thinking about it for a second, even just bringing it to mind, I believe starts to calm you. It starts to put you into a present state, because just recalling or bringing to mind an empty beach with just yourself, just your presence upon it, and nothing else. So the experience, it denies this categorization. It prevents this sort of, I'm talking to someone else on the beach, and we're both talking about what, this star or that star, or whether the sand is cold or warm, or whether the breeze is too strong or not strong enough, whatever. These are all, you can have a conversation on the beach, but when you're alone, you're perforce put in contact with the experience. Can you reject it? Of course you can. Of course you can reject the experience. But it calls, it attracts you much more powerfully when there's no other person there, perhaps, to begin to distract. So there you are. You're alone. You're singularly existence. You might be the last. You might imagine yourself to be the only person alive on Earth, and yet your presence pulls in the entire universe. The vastness of it is in front of you. You could feel small, but Whitman doesn't allow us to feel small here. What he allows us to do is to identify, in essence, or to allow your connection to the universe to become what is foremost. So he even talks about this in the very beginning. He's watching the bright stars shining, and a thought of the clef of the universe is the basically the presence of the vastness of the universe comes in, and it evokes this similitude, this similarity, that I am not a person, I am a universe, I am one with everything. And that pushes away all this boxing and identifying and categorizing and liking and not liking.
And I think what he's doing also is prepping the mind to see that you are part of something greater, far greater. And just by being able to experience space and time. This is something that we always think we deal with, which I always thought was fascinating. But to see what the similarities are in your own awareness of what is around you and how it all echoes out into the greater world, the greater experience. So he goes into the similarities that he sees. And he starts with all spheres. And you think of spheres in nature, grown, ungrown, small, large, suns, moons, planets. Just reviewing in his own mind these levels that he sees. He starts with spheres, not circles.
Right. And I would like to, kind of reiterate what you're saying. When he says all spheres, he's realizing that right now he's standing alone on the orb of the Earth, and that it has the connection, the similarity, the similitude, to use his word, with all other spheres, with this one planet which you happen to be standing upon or attached to.
Right.
Is one with all other planets, with all other spheres in the universe. No different. Just as unique, just as special, but no more special than any of them.
Well, it's all part of what he's seeing. He's seeing spheres, and he stands on the sphere of the Earth. And he understands that the spheres are all around, whether they are grown or made, and their sizes. And it's across the solar system. This is as far as he's gone, is our solar system.
But it's almost like it's expanding outward. The ungrown sphere, if you will, would be the sphere that's made, that's manufactured. But it, as you already said, all these things. There's a fractal symmetry here. He doesn't use the word fractal, but the fractal symmetry that at every scale, and he even talks a bit about all distances of place, however wide, however small. So throughout all of creation, throughout all of the universe, you see this sphere. And, if you know a little bit about the mathematics, you know that the mathematics of the sphere appear everywhere. That in the similarity of nature, from the large to the small, in the branching of a tree, you see the same branching in the blood vessels of your body. You see the same branching in the vessels of your lungs. You see the similarity, the echoes of creation, down to the smallest components of what you could consider your body, all the way out to the most vast structures in the universe, which we now can see that the branching of not just the galaxies, but the way the galaxies are organized in this vast web. They call it a vast web of universal threads. And if you look at that, it looks like the branches of a tree. So it connects no matter how vast the scale or how small.
Yes, it is very much a repeat of patterns depending upon your focus. And it goes back to focus again, understanding what it is that you are engaging in. And again, the temptation is to begin to categorize it all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, or many times, it's a fear response. Because when you're in the midst of it all, the vastness can make you feel fearful because you don't know what's out there. Nor can you control it. So depending upon what you decide to engage in other words, I feel uncomfortable about talking about how big this is. I'm gonna talk about what I see.
Mm-hmm.
And this is forever what we have always done as humans. This is what I see and how it classifies and interconnects one to the other. We love finding patterns. I'm not saying not to find patterns, but to focus solely on patterns puts you outside of the sphere of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not who you are as a human being, just concentrating on one thing. You are vast, and you contain multitudes. And it's fun to find out exactly what's there.
Well, and the multitudes are a beautiful thing that he's also talking about here. This, language always does this, right? No matter what, language always starts to tear things up into pieces because the poem has to have some structure. It has to have some way of conveying the thought. But then, as a poet, Whitman and other poets are able to use the language in the way he allows it to become a beat, to become a rhythm. If he starts out with the old mother, which is the sea, swaying the sand to and fro, singing her husky song, it puts you into that idea of again the patterns, the
experience of it. It's not an idea.
The rhythm, right?
It's not. You're taking a step out of the idea.
Right, and then his language, even going forward throughout the whole poem, has the rhythm of a wave washing in and washing out, and so you preserve that connection to something that's eternal and vast and similar to everything within the universe, the tides of the galaxies, the spheres as they move, dance around the larger spheres. This whole pattern of movement and rhythm, which you see in the year and you see in the moon and you see in the stars and how they wheel around the earth and all pieces of it. And yes, there's explanations for it all, but that doesn't matter. That's the defense. That's the fear, if you will. Oh, yes, I know all about that.
It's a tool. There's nothing wrong with the pattern recognition, but it's a tool, and to understand what a tool actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, again, if the only thing you have is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail.
Right.
And you keep hitting whatever it is that's in front of you with your tool.
Right.
But you may not need that tool.
Whitman tries to kind of gently wash us away from the tools by saying very repeatedly and very, very deliberately, I should say, all spheres, all distances of place, all distances of time, all souls, all living things, however different they may be or however similar, all, and then just gaseous, watery, vegetable, mineral. He's just saying all materials, everything, all nations, all identities, all lives, all deaths. this use of all puts you into the mind of the way the sea washes all things back and forth, the way the universe and your consciousness within it, or the universe within your consciousness, really, it connects all. That there's no difference. You can break things into nations and colors and identities and living and dead and all that. And that's all fine. As Margaret just said, it's all tools. And human beings and our thoughts allow us to be that analytical. But the poet calls us away from analysis. He calls us away and into the vastness, and to not be afraid of it.
Right, to allow yourself to enter into it. And frankly, you have to be brave in order to walk into this space, because you are experiencing something that you can't control. And to trust that it's okay. It's understanding what fear actually is. Things are not okay unless I do X, Y, or Z. That's fear. And that's control. And you're so much more than that, because that puts, it's almost like putting parentheses around a word. You're containing it. You're defining its definition, your definition, as opposed to what it may also be referring to. This is my definition of place. This is my definition of time. And you may have very sophisticated definitions of place and time. Every mathematical model known under the sun. Or colors and textures and classifications of coordinate systems. It goes on forever. We know how to build classification systems. Nothing wrong with that. But again, your soul wants to experience what is out there. And it's not just the mental, analytical part. And it's not just an emotional response, because some people say, see, you have to have a emotional response to this moment. It's like there are many responses to this moment, and there are many emotions. It's also acknowledging that. There's nothing wrong with that either. But you're still so much more than your emotional response in that moment.
Right.
You're still so much more than the classifications of things that you're seeing. Experience has a wide range. And are you willing just to allow yourself into that moment? What happens when you do that? And you see aspects of his poem come through when you do that. You see time expanding outward, vast. You realize there's souls all around you, living, even though they're very different from you, all living. And he goes into the different environs that there are for these living beings, whether it's water or air, vegetable or mineral, and all the processes that happen in all of those environments. And he talks about the animals and the fish, life forms, souls that are interacting with these environments. And he takes a step again into humanity and their nations, and colors, manners, whether they are civilized or not, whether they utilize languages, and in what way.
Yeah, he uses this lovely language, and you mentioned languages and civilizations, but he's pushing past it. When he gets to, excuse me, when he gets to all identities that have existed or may exist on this globe or any globe, we're leaving the Earth. We're leaving the humanity behind, or we're leaving at least our identification with humanity as an identity, and encompassing anything, any life form, any spirit. It literally brings you from the initial, let's say, appreciation of the vastness of the beach and the vastness of the water, and then takes you to places, however wide, time of any length, all living bodies, everything that all beings, animate or inanimate, as you mentioned, watery, vegetable, mineral. He goes through all of it, all lives, all deaths, all the past, all the present, all the future. So now we're at the infinite, and still going further, because what spans them all? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the phrase "all identities" that have existed or may exist on this globe or any globe. So it's understanding that we as individuals do form identities. It's not it's not something that, you're this plant and you're living your life as a plant or a tree. Does it have an identity and an awareness? An identity, meaning the interactions, the things that build a person's awareness into a life, and what makes your life your life. You need levels of identity. And truthfully, that goes deep. It's turtles all the way down when you're talking identities. And the idea that what is happening here on our world, our globe, may be happening on any other globe. It's fascinating, really, when you think of it. Just the concept, the overall pattern that we do, forming an identity. You need to be able to have awareness to form an identity.
And right, but I believe, I think what Whitman's trying to do here is bring us past all that.
It's acknowledging how this happens. The nations and colors and barbarisms, civilizations and language, you are talking about identities.
Exactly. But so his march through all of these things, through the spheres, through the distances, all the way through the nations, all the way through all the identities, all the lives, all the deaths of the past, the present, the future. He gets us all the way to the end of this. And then he says, as he repeats from the beginning, the vast similitude interlocks all. And then once you've gone through all of these various, and it is the right word is identities, all these various identities, all these various ways of classifying things, place and time, all that. You get to the end of it, and you realize that on this beach at night, alone, the similitude that spans them all, that connects all of them, shows their affinity, that shows that they are not actually different, that these are all conveniences. They're all constructs. Everything here, place and time, bodies, various animals, all the ways the nations are divided and at each other's throats, if you will, everything, living and dying. It's still all of a whole, and it brings, I think, Margaret, it brings us all into the vastness of spirit, into the being of the Creator, and to the affinity that all of what we can see, all of what we are part of, is the same at that level, at the level of creation. None of the differences matter to the extent that they are not one of this vast creation. And then within your consciousness, you have that affinity to Creator, not creation. It lifts us out of it all. It lifts us through the beach on the night, alone. It lifts us through all the spheres and distances, all the identities, and up into the vast similitude, which is that which spans them, which I think is spirit. It's all, and has always spanned them. So it's beyond all time, beyond all the universe of creation. So we're talking about the Creator and our affinity to the Creator here.
It's our reflection of the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
The creation reflects the Creator, so that we may experience what it means to have awareness within a space and time. And it's always been and will always be. And to understand that you are encompassed by this. This is primary to your being. This is what it means to be alive and interacting with this world. There are rhythms to it, just as he said here. Life and death, past, present, and future. But again, all that is projection. All you really have is the snapshot of the present and where you are in this moment.
Mm.
And to understand that that pattern echoes throughout all creation. It means that you can find this moment alone on the beach, anywhere. You can be anywhere and see the same thing. And when you can acknowledge that, when you can acknowledge the vastness, even though there's all sorts of things going on around you, like in the middle of a cafeteria or something, and a lot of chatter, you acknowledge the fact that you are held by this.
Right. This experience connects you back, and in connecting back, what I think Whitman is also telling us to do is to remain there, regardless. So you just said it, and I'll say it again. You carry within you the awareness of being on the beach at night alone into every day-to-day situation. And that's Tole consciousness. That's being in awareness, being aware of your presence, and you no longer need to be reminded of it or brought back to it through experience necessarily, because you carry the awareness of your consciousness into any experience. You go from an individual that has an identity and a place and a time and all the things that he talks about here, a nation, a color, a barbarism, a non-barbarism. You go from that to being connected to the similarity, to being an emanation of source, and in awareness, aware that you are an emanation of source. And then you look to the other, and in awareness, in relationship, you can say that I see within this other, the affinity of consciousness, the affinity of emanation of source, and the similitude. I love, Walt Whitman uses the words from the late 19th century, but the similarity, the common connection between yourself and the other. You are of course different. You are of course unique, but you're not. You have the connection of source in both of you. And if you see someone in full awareness and consciousness, and they also have full awareness and consciousness, then there's a beautiful joy to that. But even someone who you might interact with who is not aware, who is unconscious, who has not the presence of their own consciousness in their awareness, you can still feel that emanation of source within them, because it's always there. It's always spanning everything. That there's no part of the universe you can look upon that is not within the in the sense of a quantum observer, the observation of source. All the universe exists within the observation of source, and you are connected to that wherever you go and wherever you are.
Mm-hmm. Your awareness is always there. His poem is a description of awareness relating itself to a larger world, and how it relates to a larger world. Seeing the forms and seeing the patterns and seeing how it's written within your very being, all of it. You can relate to all the different levels of identity. You can relate to being in a certain place at a certain time and interacting with all the different forms of life that are around you, experiencing it all.
I'd say also transcending it all if you get deep enough into this.
Well, yes, you experience it, but your transcendence arises from the ability to observe what's unfolding in front of you without grasping at it. And when I say that, I mean not trying to tear it apart and fit it into preconceived notions or file cabinets, It's like put in this file and put this over here, and I'll pull that out when I have time.
Yeah, the identification of all things and the classification of all things.
Right.
And okay.
It's like taking your phone out and taking a picture because you're going to look at it later.
Right. And the last line here, I think, is where Whitman brings home his appreciation of the vastness when he says, "And shall forever span them," and meaning by that he means all the things, the spheres, grown, ungrown, everything he just spoke of. He begins with as I said, the bright stars shining, and the clef of the universes, and the similitude, and he ends with, "And shall forever span them, and compactly hold and enclose them." So what is doing exactly that? Your consciousness, the vast similitude that you become aware that you are the creator. You are not only the body that is part of the creation. You have the connection back to that which existed before, and what continues to exist now because it is timeless, and what shall forever, again timeless, span all these things, everything that people tear up into pieces and classify in nations and organizations and galaxies and moons and planets and whatever it is, all the things that we call, reality. No, they're all completely and compactly held within this vast consciousness, and that is you. And once you realize that your identity is not any of these things, however, even the vastness of the sea, even the vastness of the universe is not your identity, you compactly and forever span and hold them, enclose them. The universe is within you, not the other way around.
Right. It sort of reminds me, and this is completely non sequitur, but it reminds me of the Hebrew name of God, the Yud He Vav He. And the translation I remember seeing was Yud being hand. He means see or behold. Vav is nail. He is behold, see. So having forever being held compactly and enclosed is God's name. And you are making that connection with the hand.
The hand of God in this case.
Yes.
Right.
It's the hand of God holding all of creation together, linked, connected,
spanned. Interesting, again, language is beautiful because a hand spans something. You talk about a hand span, that which you hold within your hand. People say, he, meaning the Creator, holds the whole world in his hands. That's another thing you hear. And this idea of compactly holding and enclosing them. So there's no dimension which is not held within the mind and the consciousness, the being and the awareness of Source. And Source observes all. It encompasses all. It came before all. It has no time. It is timeless. And that's our connection back.
It is the connection back.
The other wonderful phrase that everyone's heard is the I am who am. And it's if you think about it even for a second, it seems like very similar to a koan. It seems to not have a sensical or a commonplace way of understanding it. You say, well, I am who am. What does that even mean? But in the way Whitman has put it, forever spanning, compactly holding and enclosing is the being, the who am. The am is the being that bees, the am that is always. The I have no beginning, I have no end, I am. And I am is timeless. Totally would say that the moment of now isn't a moment. It's not a moment at all. It's infinity, which we very casually experience without awareness. In awareness, when you think about infinity, when you're on a beach at night alone and if infinity, the presence of infinity occurs to you, that it shows you that this is who you actually are, that moment is timeless, and you can carry it through any situation, in any part of your existence.
Mm-hmm. Also that it's hand, his hand, holding, and the image of Vav, they say a nail or like a peg or a tent peg, which basically anchors you into a space, to hold a space that covers you. And this is who he is. It's noting that this encompassing force is all around you. And this is your God.
I would also say that the analogy of a nail or a peg or a vertical and upright, one of the most beautiful ways of looking at the moment of now is an intersection of the upright with the horizontal. The horizontal
Right.
being the vast. When people think of time, they think of it being vastly in the past and vastly in the future, but that's not true at all. Time occurs at the intersection of the infinite, the divine, into the temporal, which is the plane.
Mm-hmm.
And that nail, if you will, or
Mm-hmm.
that peg is, if you say, the hand, that puts the nail into the temporal,
Mm-hmm.
is the moment of now, is the infinite in the instant.
Yes, in all things, in that moment. And we reflect all that back out into creation because we are part of creation. It's just amazing when you think that you can radiate that whole pattern back. It's like a hologram.
Yes.
We've always said that. You have a picture, you have a whole hologram within this glass. But if you shatter it and you pick up one small piece, the whole hologram is still in there.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it. And this is who we are. And I find it fascinating that if you put it all back together from that shattering, what do you get?
It's the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
The infinite can be encompassed in the instant, because, and we've seen this in much of what we do. When you have the infinite, you carry along everything.
Right. Right. Well, I believe we've reached the end of our hour.
The moment of that now.
It is this now. And I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.